Are you getting a lot of matches on dating apps but struggling actually getting women to meet you in person? If so, you're not alone. I've helped hundreds of professional men transform their dating lives by mastering online dating. This is something I see quite often, but luckily for you, I've got the fix. In fact, one of my recent clients went from 0 dates in 6 months despite getting regular matches to dating 3 different women in his first week after implementing the exact strategies I'm about to show you. I'll break down the entire process step by step, show you real examples of conversations that worked, and give you specific templates you can start using immediately. All right, so if you're getting a lot of matches, this must mean that you have a good presentation. You got the photos done, you got the looks, you got your style on point. Something about you is appealing from the fact that women are just swiping right. However, once again, we are getting no dates. Now, as somebody who has received more than 5,000 matches across all dating apps, here's the harsh truth of what I personally have learned about matches. And yes, I've used all dating apps. Some of you guys have even seen it. Now, first off, you must assume that all matches are low interest until proven otherwise. What do I mean by this? Whenever a woman actually swipes right on you, that doesn't signify high interest. Most guys get confused. They think a match equals the woman wants me. We're going out on a date tomorrow. No, brother, that's not the case. In fact, you gotta change your mindset here. I'd argue that a match is the equivalent of a cold approach phone number. You know how you met that woman on the street, you met her at the gym, you met her at that party, you met her at that event, didn't know her, but she gave you her number, you end up texting her and she never responded. How many times has that happened to you? I know for me, this happened quite a handful of times, or even, the woman would reply, but it never led to a date. That's the same exact way a match works, because we have no idea how or why that woman matched with us. She could have been bored. She could have thought we were just okay. Her friend could have told her to swipe right. You never know the answer. So that's why we have to understand the genuine match. Now, what is a genuine match? A genuine match is simply a match to where the woman opens you first. This is perhaps the only thing I've came across in which it is a true genuine match that likely signifies high interest. Even then, you gotta be on your toes. And sometimes I'll even say nothing matters until the woman sleeps with you, to be honest. But when a woman does message you first, it's more likely to be a genuine match. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to calculate your genuine matches, because we might get 100 matches in a week, but if we only have 1 or 2 women messaging us first, that shows that we actually don't have a lot of genuine matches. What is a lot of matches? Is it 500 in a day? We've seen some of these female accounts where they're getting 6,000 in a month, or 500 in 24 hours. Listen, the male reality is completely different. So first we have to understand what a lot actually is. So I got this little graph here to show you, and this is based on real data, real stats. The average man is getting anywhere from 0 to 4 matches a week. Average guy, and most of the guys who are on dating apps using online dating fall within that average category. They have nothing appealing about themselves, thus they get no results. Now, top 10%, which I assume this is probably you if you're watching this video, you're getting anywhere from 25 on the low end to 50 matches a week. Sometimes even higher than that. But if you are getting 50 matches a week, you are doing something right. Now, here's what we gotta remember. We gotta consider the match quality, because sometimes guys will say, oh, I'm getting a lot of matches, but you're spam liking the match feed. Those aren't genuine matches either, So assuming that you're actually swiping right on women who you're interested in and attracted to, and you're getting a lot of matches that way, then yes, we can consider you in that top 10%. Otherwise, you're just kind of going for anything. Even myself, I could swipe on 1,000 women a day, all of them, and end up getting a shit ton of matches. However, we need to be a little bit more selective. Now, also, this is relevant across all dating apps you use. So if you are getting anywhere from 25 to 50 matches per week across all dating apps, that will be considered a lot of matches. Now, here's something in which I never see anybody talk about, and that is the match to date ratio. So this is important to know because it really signifies how much our matches are converting into dates itself. And it's a very simple calculation. It is your total number of dates divided by your total matches. Most guys have no idea what their match to date ratio is. In fact, in my coaching program, Digital Romeo, we actually created a whole Excel sheet that automatically tracks their matches to date ratio across all dating app platforms. But that's besides the point. So if you are able to calculate your match to date ratio, here's what is good and here's what is bad. So anything 4% or lower, that's pretty bad. If you're in that range between 4 to 10%, that's actually pretty good. I would say 10% is actually quite good, even from a code approach perspective. There's a saying that the top guys of code approach or whatever, they had a date ratio of around 10%. So if you're converting 10% of your matches, that's really good. Your elite status if you're 12% or higher. Most of you guys are probably in the 4 to 3 to 2 range. Once again, a lot of matches, but very shitty conversion. So just to sort of visualize this even more, if you go on 4 dates and you got 100 matches, that's 4% conversion rate. 10 dates, 100 matches, 10%. 12 plus dates and 100 matches, that is 12%. All right, so now let's actually get into the conversion strategies. And the first one I'm gonna discuss is called planting the seed. You guys gotta remember, the front end of the conversation on the dating app itself is very, very important. It's not good enough to just go for the number, go for the Instagram, or just try to set the date, which we're gonna get into, but you actually need to plant the seed towards the date within the conversation, and ideally within 5 messages. And so when I say plant the seed, all this really means is hinting at the idea towards a date. And in doing so, you subconsciously or even consciously let her know that you are not here to be a pen pal. You are not here to just discuss and talk about random things and not actually meet up. So we're providing a little bit more intention towards the actual messaging process. Now, I'm gonna show you a client example of mine who does a really, really good job of planting the seed. And so as we see here, she opened him with, "Hi there, do you drink cappuccinos?" So as we see here, this is the example of the genuine match in which I talked about earlier, getting matches, and he actually got the woman to open him first. And we did this by refining his pictures, optimizing his prompts, bio, and all the nuanced stuff to get women to actually message him first. But the point is, he got the genuine match. He then said, "I love coffee. I bet that you're a coffee fanatic, so that's a good assumption. LOL, not a fanatic, but I do love a good cup every day. What's your favorite shop in Austin?" So also notice here, she's asking questions back. This is something that genuine matches usually tend to do. He said, "I've been enjoying Hound Stout. Gives off the same vibes as Minneapolis shops. Do you make your own? Can you be my barista?" She then says, "Oh, that's great. All I know is how to make a Keurig cup, but I'm a pretty good bartender, so I got you there." He says, "Oh, I like bartenders. Do you have a signature drink?" So as we see here, it's kind of just normal conversation. In fact, 1, 2, 3, we have about 4 messages. We're about 4 messages in. And then she says, "Haha, I make a pretty good spritz." Now, most guys, what would they do? They would continue to just go on with the conversation, maybe ask another question, really not transition or even plant the seed towards anything. But what does my client do? He says, "That would be a great drink for our first meet. Reminds me of summer Italy." Now, this is a very subtle way of planting the seed. He says, "That would be a good drink for our first meet." Basically, this is a subtle hint towards the meetup. And she said, "I've always wanted to go to Italy." So as we see, that's where the seed was planted, and that was then message 5. Now here's an example of not a genuine match. He messaged her first, and it works the same way. He said, "How many burger genres could there possibly be?" In reply to her prompts, profile, bio, etc. "Just about as many as you can think of." Well, that's a lot. Which burger joint is doing all the heavy lifting then? So 2 questions back to back. That's totally fine because she really didn't give him much to go off of. She says, "Depends on what genre you want, but the Nook one is my favorite." He says, "The Nook is a great spot. I have been building up the courage to complete the Nookie challenge. Oh my God, isn't that like you have to eat 2 of their biggest burgers? And fries. We can start more low-key for our first date." As we see here, the seed is now planted. In her mind, she now knows if she continues this conversation, my client here is gonna want to meet up. And so how many messages was this? 1, 2, 3, 4. He planted the seed on a non-genuine match within 4 messages. Now she said, oh God, probably a good idea. I'd prefer not to do CPR on the first date. So we always gotta keep in mind how they replied to this too. She is clearly open to the idea of meeting. Otherwise, she probably would have left him on red right there. Point is here, we need to plant the seed within the first 5 messages of conversation. There are plenty of ways to do it. It is going to take a little bit of creativity, but it is possible in multiple contexts. The next thing we're going to do is use a funnel, because one of the biggest mistakes I see is men trying to set dates on the app itself. Now take a look here. He liked the girl's photo. She says, we for sure matched before, but hi again, cutie. So she's obviously interested. I would argue that this is a genuine match. He says, well, this time let's meet up. You like wine? She says, I love wine. Let's get one and have good talks this week. I'm down for that, but let's talk first. He got a comfort objection. Despite the attraction being high, she wasn't comfortable enough to set the date up. And that's because social proof wasn't established, rapport was not built, hence the let's talk more first. And because of that, he kind of just rushed the process. And so whenever you do use a funnel, it's going to keep the conversation leading towards a date, which is perfect, exactly what we want, especially on the front end. But most guys, they kind of rush too fast. They don't build enough rapport because they don't funnel. But also it's going to build more comfort and rapport naturally. Because when we move a woman from one platform to another, we're either starting a new conversation or we're leveraging other aspects of attraction, such as social proof, which will indirectly and subtly build comfort. Voice notes, which will also build comfort. Even a FaceTime, which is the best comfort building technique there is. And then, of course, dating apps, they have a lot of time wasters, attention seekers. And so it's going to weed out the time wasters and any woman who's just genuinely not interested in meeting up, because the worst thing you can do is not preserve your time. As a busy guy, I'm sure you have a lot you could focus on: going to the gym, your business, your career, your hobbies, your friends. The last thing you want to do is be spending time messaging a lot of women who are just not interested. So that's also why we use the funnel. Now, just to visualize this even more, here's an example of what a funnel would look like. You will first start on the dating app. So as we see here, this is where you attract most of the leads. And then on the dating app, we're going to build just a small amount of rapport, usually around 3 to 5 messages. And then we're going to transition her to social media. Ideally, if you don't have a great social media presence, if you don't have at least 9 pictures, if you don't have attractive highlights, if you really don't use social media at all, then instead of social media, it will be phone number. But social media is great because we can leverage social proof. And then also within the DMs, we can go for something called a soft close. All a soft close is basically hinting at the idea of meeting up and talking more soon. Hey, we should meet up and talk more soon. Hey, well, let's meet you in person. Let's meet up sometime this week. You never ask a woman what her schedule is like at first. You first hint at the idea from the fact that you guys should meet up. And then once she has confirmed the soft close, and then you go to the hard close, so you got the time confirmed, the day of the week, and where you're going, that is when you transfer her to phone number to make it even more intimate. Guys, your phone number isn't something that you just give out freely. Much like women, a lot of these women, they're gonna want social media anyway because they're not comfortable giving out their phone number. But likely, if they set up the date with you already, if they see that you're a normal, real human being, they're more likely to give out the phone number, and that's when you're gonna get it. But not only that, you should place your phone number on a pedestal. Only give your phone number out to women who have confirmed the date, because otherwise you're now left with a whole lot of phone numbers that are just clogging up the list. And definitely don't save the number. I'm not sure if you are saving the number, but don't do it. And by the way, with social media, use it as a messaging tool. You don't have to follow them. If they follow you first, then fine, whatever, follow them back. But if they don't set up the date, immediately you're gonna unfollow. If they flake, you're gonna unfollow. But for the most part, ideally, we wanna use social media as a messaging tool. And then at the end part of the funnel, this is where we get to the in-person meeting. Now, this diagram is fairly accurate. This is how pretty much the flow is gonna go. As with any funnel, there's filters. That's why it's called a funnel. When you go from dating app to social media, not every woman will follow through. You're gonna have some drop-offs for whatever reason. They go ghost, they don't message you, whatever it may be. And then from social media to phone number, you're gonna have women also who drop off because of the filter. They don't have time to meet up, there's logistic issues, they're not actually interested in meeting up. Maybe they're talking to another guy. You know, they got something else involved with to where they're entertaining attention from other men, but they're not necessarily willing or able to meet up with the guy yet. In that case, you can keep them in your ecosystem on social media, but ideally we would just kind of dead the lead right there. And then from there, you know, it's gonna be a smaller amount. So this is where the match to date ratio comes into play. 4%, 5%, 6%, 7%. Once again, we need to aim for that minimum 10%. 10% is really, really good. Now, if all else fails, I want you to do something called the 15 message rule. And this is where you give yourself 15 messages to set up the date. This ensures that you're at least asking and leading, because sometimes the reason why you're not converting your matches is from the sole fact you're not asking them out. Crazy how that works. Like, actually take a look at some of your conversations. You're saying, oh, the matches aren't going nowhere, but you've only asked out 2 girls out of the 15 you were talking to. Of course it's not going to go nowhere. You didn't make the invitation. So if you follow this rule and the dating funnel system, you'll at least give yourself a chance to get results. And once again, if this all is followed, you should be able to reach at least 10% match to date ratio. So right here's an example of a soft close. Let's meet up and talk more soon. She said, yeah, we should. Do you live in Orlando? So also with the soft close, it's used to gauge interest to see if she's actually interested in meeting up. So you want to see kind of how she responds to the soft close, which is why that's also important. Now, by the way, if you are serious about transforming your dating life and you want personalized guidance towards everything we talked about today to fast track your results, go ahead and click the link down below to work with me one-on-one, where you get a customized feedback along with a custom action plan. And once again, this will fast track your results. Now, I want to show you some examples of some of my clients here. This is Dyrone. He had a little business meeting, which we consider those fun times, sexy times, if you know what I mean. Last night with a woman he perceives to be really attractive, you know? She's half German, half Turkish, and that was on the first night. So clearly we are converting those matches into dates. Now also, my other client, he got some cheeks off Bumble. You know, he had to play the waiting game a little bit, but he's getting results. And then also my other client, William, you know, just showing his appreciation with me and my assistant coach, Felipe. You know, he went from pretty much having no experience with girls over the past summer to now having a handful of leads that he is now converting into actual dates. And this is from the advice that we both have been giving him and the game plan that we set out for him. We don't only focus on online dating, but also actually having a social media strategy, be it posting content or at least building out some sort of attractive social media presence. And if you want to learn more about that, follow me on Instagram at @BasedAustinDunham. But hopefully we can work with you soon. Apply all that, and I promise you, you're going to start converting more matches into dates. I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Peace.